And now, time to get in the huddle with your host, Charles Prodigy Richey, here on the Man of Steel podcast.
Hey, you blink, I'll cut your eyelids off. Don't you blink. I got you. Let's go.
You get where you feel like you can rush the quarterback. You understand? Yeah. Rush the quarterback. Bangs in for the touchdown, and there's the coup de grace.
Do you have room in the trophy for another one there? You got 6 of them. Now you're the winningest franchise in NFL history.
We'll make room.
And welcome everybody to this edition here of the Man of Steel podcast. Of course, yours truly, me, Charles Prodigy Richey. As right now, we just conclude not only Juneteenth on Friday, pretty much the end of slavery in the U.S. in the late 19th century, but also this past Sunday, it was also Father's Day as well. And as everyone can imagine, hope everyone, all the dads out there, to all the families, or even to all the parents out there, excuse me one second. Excuse me, everybody. So once again, all the dads right there, or even all the parents who have to sometimes take on the role of being, of a double role, being both a mother and father. Hope all the dads out there, it was a memorable one. Glad to see you guys join me here as we are streaming live right now. I'm streaming live off of Zoom right now and Instagram live. Be ready. I'm going to be planning on doing some more video uploads in the future for the Man of Steel podcast. If you guys want to feel free and you want to reach the number to dial in, that number today is simply put, it is 312-209-2232. Again, that is 312-209-2232. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Prodigy Richey, at OnDeckCSR. For the Man of Steel podcast on Twitter is simply at Man of Steel CJR and at Man of Steel Nation. As we got a lot of stuff to get into right now, but let's first begin right now at this moment in time. It was on the state on June 21st of 2005 that the late Myron Cope, he pretty much moved on from the Steelers broadcast position booth, and which, by the way, he served over 35 years of broadcasting alongside 2 legendary play-by-playmen, with, of course, being the very first for 28 seasons. We start off, or the 29 seasons, I should say, 29 seasons, Jack Fleming. And then later on, which is currently right now, Billy Hillgrove right now. And Billy Hillgrove, if you're out here listening to this live stream, I hope everything is doing well for you. It was reported he was involved in a situation right there with some sort of an accident. Hope everything's going well for him and his family at this time. Prayers out to you, my man. It was a pleasure interviewing you a year ago, day after Mother's Day, on the Man of Steel podcast, and have you on. So other than that, I hope you're all in good spirits right here and everything going on. I hope you had a terrific Father's Day with you and your loved ones as we take a look at it right now. But yeah, I mean, Myron Cope, I mean, you think of a guy right here who's been a true legend, not just for the Steelers organization, but just also Pittsburgh broadcasting in general. I mean, Myron Cope, by the way, who actually passed away at the age of 79 years old. And remember his last playoff game, I think his last game as a broadcaster, radio broadcaster, I want to say was on the 2004 AFC Championship game loss, where the Steelers did eventually lose to the New England Patriots that year. And you saw what happened there. And shortly after he retired, he became another recipient of the Pete Rozelle Radio and TV Award, as we looked at it. And this guy right here, I mean, who came up with a lot of legendary nicknames as we look at it. I mean, pretty much for 3 different players. The very first one that came to mind was, of course, Jack Lambert. Called him Jack Splat. Excuse me one second. Jack Lambert, which he became known as Jack Splat. And of course, later on, you also had guys later on who, Cordell Stewart, aka known as Flash. Then last but not least, Jerome the Bus Bettis. But the more important thing, he invented was a terrible towel when he did that. And I think a lot of it too, right now he had some, one of his kids who's experiencing, his son who had severe autism, was trying to make some proceeds available for him during that time. And it was introduced in the playoff game against the Baltimore Colts back in 1975. So you're talking about over 45 years of tradition that was pretty much passed on to that as we looked at it. But this man right here, he meant so much to, like I said, not only the Steelers, but you also think of the legendary broadcasters in Pittsburgh, where you also have guys like across the board too. When you look at like who he was around, you also have Mike Lang of the Pittsburgh Penguins right now, and then you also have Pirates announcer, the late Pirates announcer, Bob Prince. He had a repertoire of unique catchphrases employed in his broadcast that says, yeah, or double yoy. And this guy right here, I think one of the most funniest videos I remember him doing was he did for Jerome Bettis when he first came here in the Pittsburgh Steelers. I did the Macarena for Jerome Bettis. And I gotta admit, that was probably like one of the funniest videos I've seen all time by this guy. But at the same time, too, he was definitely a personality right here. You look at a lot of his noble achievements right here. For back in 1963, for example, E.P. Dutton Prize for Best Magazine Sports Writing in the Nation for his portrayal of Cassius Clay. And then you also had in 1987, this was a year before Art Rudy passed away, Hearst Corporation. This was for the NOAA Literary Achiever. Because remember, he was also a writer too before he segued into broadcasting in the late 60s, beginning in 1968. And then, of course, his profile of Howard Cosell was selected as one of 50 all-time classic articles by Sports Illustrated. And of course, as everyone I just mentioned a few moments ago, 2005, he was elected to not only to the Radio Hall of Fame, but he was a recipient of the Pete Rozelle Radio Television Award for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Well, another noble honor right there as we looked at it. And also, too, he co-founded the Myron Cope and Foge Fazio Golf Tournament for autistic children. So he did a lot of very notable stuff here. And you just think of guys like that who have touched so many, and including just the legacy of Pittsburgh and the Steelers right here. This was the guy who's just one of the voices. When you think about Pittsburgh, he's definitely one of the first voices that come to mind covering this team and bleeds all over it like none other. So we're going to get into him just a little bit more, but right now, like I said, I hope everyone's been having a safe, fun, memorable weekend. Just glad to see everything slowly calming itself down from the last couple of weeks. You still got a lot of stuff, obviously, no doubt. A lot of debates right now where it's the return of sports or whatever. I think what you see right now, you're just seeing a lot more of the emotions of unity, getting a lot more stronger. With people in the area, just saw like a statue being taken down. I'm not sure which one that was, but you also have one right now for the Washington Redskins statue just recently. When we look at it, and you had George Preston Marshall, a statue of the former Redskins right there. He was a founding owner of that team, and he was forced to airate his team in the early 1960s. So this is a guy right here who definitely had a high racial profile, no doubt about it. But, they're in our situation right now. You got to start thinking, are they going to go ahead and finally make that move as far as, changing the name and doing with it? Since you got, the Black Lives Matter movements, Yeah, a lot of races were pretty much offended right now. Yeah, the Jerry Richardson statue from the Carolina Panthers, that was removed right there. I mean, this guy who also had a lot of sexual allegations, misconduct, and possibly some racial activity going behind the scenes. I believe he was found to go to the Panthers right there. And you just gotta just start asking yourself what kind of like standard people, I mean, the legacy people want to be honoring for this generation. What kind of scars you want to start removing, because it's obviously some pretty deep ones that you can never seem to like vanish from people. It'll always cling to people's minds whenever they see a certain moment, person, or memorial of someone. And I just think that's where we gotta like look at it and say, hey, it's just, you know what, it is what it is, and we just need to be asking ourselves what kind of standards we want to be saying, holding ourselves to, and like as far as like making change for everything to grow, not only as a country but just worldwide. I want to see a lot of progress being made with this. So speaking of which, we're gonna go sweep things over to Heyward right now, who's one of the many players on the Steelers team. You got 18 guys, 18 players going into unrestricted free agency in 2021. 8 of which you got starters right now. And those 8 starters right now, as far as like on like the Steelers squad right now, I mean, when you look at it, I mean, for the time being, I mean, you got quite a bit here, and here are the people that jump to mind. You got right now, you got one linebacker on there, outside linebacker, Bud Dupree, obviously with him with his franchise tag. You also got defensive tackle Cam Heyward. Then you got 2 offensive linemen right now. You got Alejandro Villanueva, Matt Filer, corner Mike Hilton, defensive end Tyson Alululu. And then you also got coming up as far as like your other starters, you got wide receiver Juju Smith-Schuster, and of course James Conner. Those seem to be the most obvious names. We'll continue to like digest this offseason and see where everything stands at. And I just wanted to say, Bill Greg, thank you very much for joining here on the Mass Steel podcast. It was nice having you on. If you want, feel free to shoot me a question for any time throughout this period. Feel free. You can do so, and I'll be glad to welcome you on throughout this time. If you want to have a request, join me live. But anyway, like I said, I mean, these are the guys right now who got like more of the heavier load to carry right now. These are the ones who are going to be feeling it the most, no doubt about it. I mean, with this, I mean, these guys right now, I mean, it's pretty much all or nothing. And it's probably safe to say right now, it's either you make a deep run to you get to the Super Bowl, you make a deep run to the playoffs, or this whole thing's be blown up. And we just have any indication like what's going to be happening with COVID-19. I mean, you look at like the NBA, for example, right now. It's on shaky grounds right now. They're going to resume playing basketball in Orlando, Florida. There's still talks, should the NBA even think about considering relocating it, like where it's like places like Las Vegas, New York, and other locations. I mean, when you see this continuous spike of these coronaviruses right there, then the biggest thing, too, we're hearing is try to create some sort of a large bubble to contain everybody in. And if we have like a bubble like around like these facilities or like the sites that are going to be covering these games, I mean, how much do we have to be more on alert to monitoring no one goes as far as out of that bubble? Because if you go out there, you pretty much put yourself at risk where you probably come back, get yourself infected. And then all these high testing profiles right now, because you got baseball right now too, who is in a standstill right now. Commissioner Rob Manfred of that sport, he actually just laid out plain simple. I mean, it's like, listen, I mean, it's like if we can't get a full season played, And right now, they're pretty much like trying to stick to like 50 games, and the players are trying to have a little bit more than that. They want to have like a little bit, like at least 60 or a little bit more, plus prorated contracts. They did not want to be shortchanged, and they're adamant about having the expansion of playoffs. Well, if you happen to have like an agreement where they do decide to go at 50 games, the thing about that right there is that they still got a chance to hold a right where they could file for a grievance. But if they do 60 games or more, you waive your right to a grievance, knowing that the fact you probably get a lot more money in the sport. Those are the areas we're looking at when we look at other sports leagues right now. A lot of people got to be paying attention to how they're going to do this safely and with this possible second wave. The only problem is, where you have another concern is too, if they're able to go short on these games, like say they do 50, they only play 40 games for Major League Baseball, you're going to have to consider like wiping out having a universal DH for both the American and National League and an expansion of the playoffs. Those are situations right now that is happening. I know when we look at it, I mean, like as far as like sports and entertainment, aside from the UFC, you have WrestleMania 36 go on this year. I mean, like remote streamed. Even though it was supposed to be in Tampa, Florida, I thought they did a hell of a job doing that event, considering not being any live fans in attendance. I just think the sickening thing is, I mean, we just don't know when the second wave is going to come. It's supposed to be around the fall, but how much more aggressive is it going to be? We still have no vaccine, but at the same time, it's just more back planning, keeping businesses normal. And on top of that, you got the protesting going on. So you got a lot of things staring us straight in the face here, like what we're planning on doing here. And I just feel like right now, we got to ask ourselves, I mean, if we do that, I mean, it's like the bigger sacrifice they're making. If Colin Kaepernick can make his sacrifice, standing up and protesting for something at a time where the attention that he was gaining, because even Heyward was saying that a lot of people were paying attention to the issues he was pointing. It's just that he was standing out at an awkward time doing this. But at the same time, too, it's all coming to fruition. We see the problems that we see in a society as far as like race, African Americans, and all the other things surrounding it. I mean, obviously, he's made his point a lot better, a lot more stronger. I mean, he's won his grievance against the league in court. He's got compensated a lot of money. And we look at it right now, it's just here's the thing. He still absolutely wants to come back and play. Definitely feels like he's been humiliated a lot and definitely wronged. And I will never think otherwise of that. The whole thing about that too, I mean, the Steelers right now, who actually did not take the chance of signing a guy like Jameis Winston, trying to offer him to a cheap deal. I mean, look at where he's at right now. He's with the New Orleans Saints. So you're going to roll the dice, even if we are having the season starting time, or even if it starts a little bit later. Because remember, it's still a little bit more of a flexibility issue right now, as far as like if they're going to start swinging it towards October. And even Cam Heyward, I mean, one of the many things aside from this too, when you look at like his concerns right now, remember he's going into the final year of his contract right now. He signed a 6-year extension back in July of 2015. The Steelers would be taking a cap hit of over $13.25 million when we all look at it. And even still, right now, it's really hard to say what they're going to be doing right now. And I just feel like as far as like his any movement with contract negotiations, as he spoke to Mark Kaboly of The Athletic, as he's entering the final year of a 6-year, $59.2 million. Right now, They have until September 14th to agree on an extension. Should that not happen in 9 months, Heyward will test the open market for the first time. And here's his quote. He said, "I would love for it to get done." Cam Heyward said, "Obviously, it hasn't. There's not much more that can go about with everything going on. I just had to be patient. Besides my contract, there's a lot of other people that need to get signed. Those rookies, they are still waiting. Things have to happen, and they should. I will be ready either way. If I go into this year knowing that it might be my last year, so be it." Plus, also, too, when it came to, like, the anthem and the kneeling right now, when they were reflecting back in 2017 when they were in Chicago at Soldier Field, or how, like, most of the team thought they were going to agree they were going to just stand back in the locker room, but then Alejandro Villanueva decided to, like, stand out there and stand, since pretty much he was in the Army. Heyward had this to say. He said, "That pissed me off about that is what we were trying to do, is remain out of the spotlight. They got turned upside down." As he said during a Zoom call with reporters, he wanted to say that to know that we were looked at as leaving one of our brothers out, leaving Al to dry, when really we got separated by a play 60 flag that was coming through. And by the time the national anthem started, we were separated. It was never meant for us to ostracize a player. And I just feel like that was just a real shame right there, because the thing is, that did get twisted. It got blown out of proportion. Obviously, by the president, I mean, just pretty much making that, I mean, just making the statement that it's like, we should like to see these bleeps get fired for people who don't stand and salute our flag. And that's the whole point he was trying to make right there. And I just feel like it was just totally blown out of proportion. And it got took into a whole nother level that was supposed to. I mean, those first couple of years, I mean, you start seeing sports implement policies where people stand during the anthem. I think the NBA did that, where they had, I think, in one of their rules, to like have players stand up and not taking knees. I gotta tell you one thing. I mean, with Commissioner Roger Goodell, I mean, like, apologizing, saying they screwed up on that. I mean, I don't think it should be more problems, but at the same time, I can't speak for people who are going to still be offended at the end of the day. I mean, you're not going to make everyone happy, unfortunately. But like I said, you have to look at everything that's going on. Where it's continuing to fight against terrorism. You got race going on. And you just see a lot of these right now, stuff that we have to put on the spotlight for right now. And I just feel right now that he's definitely, they're a lot more flexible. They're not going to expect everyone to want to stand up or take a knee. They seem to be a lot more unified in that regard. So we'll see where it ends up taking them. But right now, let's get ready to go wrap up and get into fair or foul. And this is the only topic I'm going to have for fair or foul on today's show. I pose a question out there, and I want to hear your thoughts on this. If you have one player each on offense, defense, and special teams that you will return, who will those people be and why? For offense, I'm going to go ahead and start off playing simple. I'm going to go Antonio Brown. I mean, yeah, Le'Veon Bell, I mean, he was definitely more dynamic. He brought a lot more to the table. He had a lot more skill-making abilities. But I think Antonio Brown as a receiver, he was just that good. I mean, as a playmaker. I mean, you saw the chemistry with him and Ben doing things there and what they're able to do in their time. For a big chunk of his touchdown passes to Antonio Brown within that time frame, as we looked at it, and Ben Roethlisberger, who really just did a phenomenal job. I mean, overall in his career. I mean, when we look at it, I mean, when we look at his overall career statistics, when throwing to like first round picks or to undrafted free agents, and we looked at it, I mean, he threw most of his touchdown passes to people selected in the third round. And then, second of all, it came down to Antonio Brown, who actually caught 19% of Ben Roethlisberger's passes, which is the most by any receiver he ever threw to in his career as a Steeler. So go ahead and give me Antonio Brown for that. For offense. Defense, I'll probably go with Jack Ham. The reason why I say Jack Ham on defense, he right now, as far as like the history of the NFL, he is the number one leader in takeaways for a guy who's not a defensive back. He has 53 takeaways, which includes 32 interceptions, 21 fumble recoveries. Jack Ham was just that special, that multidimensional as a linebacker. This is a guy who could do it all. It'd definitely be a lot more flexible. Who also helped contribute a great deal when the Steelers were playing on those 4-3 defenses, and just being well versed as far as creating takeaways. And definitely just changing games, just being just playmakers out there. I mean, Jack Ham, obviously he may not be as intense as Jack Lambert, but I look at a guy who is well versed and all around. I gotta give it to him right there. And just for him being that, and the only other guy that comes close to a guy like Jack Ham is Ray Lewis, who actually had one less takeaway than he did. He had 31 takeaways, one less fumble recovery. He finished his career with 51 total takeaways. So, there you go right there. So I'm going to go with Jack Ham. And then for special teams returns, I'm going to give me Rob Woodson. Rob Woodson, he is the all-time leader in punt returns for the Steelers franchise with 2,362 yards returned. And he is also fifth on punt return touchdowns with 2. Kick return yards, he is number one in that area as well. No surprise there. With 4,894 yards. And then he's second in touchdown returns with 2. And there you have it with Rod. I think Rod right there, he was just that good, as well as a defensive back. So that's where I'm going to leave it right there. So that's going to do it here for this edition here of the Man Steel Podcast. Just want to say thank you for those of you who took the time to join in. Once again, you catch me every Mondays and Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. We plan to have some big special guests coming up in the near future. My friends, Dean and Davis right there of the Dean and Davis Show, which is Kenneth and Damon Sporo, along with their executive producer, Ryan Bukovetsky. Some great colleagues of mine when I hosted with at ChicagolandSportsRadio.com. We were on different shows, but great guys right there. Gotta check them out. As always, leave you. Go patrolling, re-rolling. Yeah.